If you don't normally get your comments and questions heard and answered here just because we have too many coming in the live chat, this may be your night. This may be your night. We've started spring practice in Coral Gables, but not a whole lot of news at this point, as we will monitor from day to day, of course. And again, get on in here, leave your comments and questions on Hurricanes Live right here at the Voice of College Football. And of course, it only happens because we've got Cam Underwood from State of the U. Cam, how are you tonight?
Good, hanging out. So, yeah, we are a couple days into spring practice, but yeah, it's laying the foundation, kind of. You know what I mean? Like this is it's not like a real sexy time in terms of, or I mean, it's not like a controversial time. Like we didn't just lose 45-10 to Middle Tennessee, or whatever. But hopefully those things are in the past, and they're working on making things towards a brighter future.
I'm going to take us off campus, out of state, out of conference, just because I was looking at a few various teams today. And of course, our friend Jake Garcia is in a quarterback battle in Mizzou.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think his prospects are there? Not necessarily surveying the competition, but more about his skills and his abilities to revive his career or jumpstart his career.
Yeah, Jake Garcia is very talented. He was the highest rated quarterback that Miami signed since Kyle Wright in 02, 03, whenever that was. I was still in college. So it was like 02. Higher rated than Ja'Cory Harris, than Brad Kaya, than even some guys who didn't end up winning the job. Like a David Thompson, who was maybe a little bit inflated in his quarterback ranking because he was clearly like a baseball player who also played a little football. And then he, became Davy Baseball, led the team to the College World Series, and is kind of in the minors. He's trying to make his way up to the show in the world of baseball. But like, he was decently rated as a quarterback. If you're looking at a Malik Rozier, if you're looking at anybody else that we've signed, even Tyler Van Dyke, another 4-star. Jake Garcia was rated higher than all of them. And that's for good reason. I know that there was the controversy with him moving from Southern California to Valdosta, being ruled ineligible as a senior during the COVID year, and then going to Loganville Grayson, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, that's cool. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. I know that he'd moved around Southern California before that, but he was able to do that because he's very, very talented. Okay, the kid has a strong arm. He's accurate with it. He has a quick release, and he has the makings of someone who can be successful in the world of college football. It ended up not working out for him to start here, after he got injured. When he was the number 2 quarterback in front of Tyler Van Dyke. I know people want to say, no, he wasn't. He came off the sideline first when De'Aaron King got injured. Facts are facts. But yeah, he's very, very talented. And, I know that they have that the freshman phenom Brady Cook, I believe his name is, at Mizzou. Yes. But in terms of just like in a vacuum, as in, you remove all of the structures around and all the context and everything. But if you're just looking at skill to skill, player to player, Jake Garcia is, if not on par with Brady Cook, he's a better, more talented player. So that could be advantageous for him, but I mean, like, he has to go there and do the job. And it's not as well worn a path as Miami to the north side of Dallas to go to SMU, because I think we had like 5 or 6 guys go make that path this current year. But Missouri has actually been a place where, in this transfer portal era, several guys have gone. You remember Realus George, the fullback who looked like he was 43 years old in high school. When he left Miami, he went to junior college, and then he ended up switching to defensive tackle, put on a little bit extra weight, and then he went to Missouri, right? Marcus Clark, another talented defensive back, he went from Miami to Missouri, and so too has Jake Garcia. So it's like a under the radar, still Power Five landing spot for a couple of these guys. So I mean, Jake has all, I think, the ability in the world, and he would have been, I mean, top of my head, probably the ranking member of the backup quarterback class in the ACC. Like off the top of my brain, yeah, I'm pretty sure he would have been, like the closest to being a starter. You know what I mean? It's just that you got, Tyler Van Dyke coming back, and he's going somewhere where even with, Brady Cook in front of him or returning after having a very successful year, where you think, hey, I can go and get that job. And, good on him if he can. I'm rooting for him whether he does or not. But I mean, yeah, I believe that he has the talent to be able to do so.
Got Casey in the chat. Appreciate your question here. And before I read off the question, I did look up the current NFL players from Arkansas and Miami. Miami 31, Arkansas 22. Casey asks, Mark, can you ask Cam about Jaheim Singletary? Can't name a single cornerback in the league from Arkansas, but players would rather go there than Miami. Mario, can I get wide receivers or cornerbacks?
Jaheim Singletary was a 5-star recruit from Jacksonville Trinity Christian Academy. Went to Georgia for a year and then entered the transfer portal. Miami was involved in his initial recruitment, was involved to a level in his transfer recruitment, but he never visited. And I mean, in this window. And without a visit, it's not really realistic. You know what I mean? And, if you look at, the scenario, so yeah, he ends up committing to Arkansas instead of Miami or anywhere else, because he could have gone anywhere in the country. And, like Jaden Hazelwood, when he transferred from Oklahoma, remember the 4-star receiver who was kind of prophetic when he was just like, Miami's not really about winning, when he was a high school recruit and picked Oklahoma. He was kind of right about that, to be honest. And yeah, he went to, I mean, not that he was going to come to Miami. I mean, we joked about it when he left Oklahoma, but that wasn't going to happen. And then he goes there, but like everybody makes the decision for them, and I think that there's a clearer path to starting for Mr. Singletary in Arkansas than in Miami. Now, I believe he probably would have either played heavy snaps or started here. I'm not going to, lie about it, but, it's, in the fact of like Mario can't get insert here, I disagree. Like Christian Gonzalez is going to be a top 10 pick from Oregon. You know what I mean? Like Braylon, they had the other cornerback who tore his knee up with like 2 last names like a couple years ago. But from Oregon, you know what I mean? Like they have like Dante Thornton, who everybody wanted and everything. He went to Oregon. You know what I mean? Like, even if Miami is struggling to get like a number 1 wide receiver, like let's not put down Ray Joseph or Robbie Washington. I got it right the first time this time. You know what I mean? Like, let's look at those kind of things. So, I mean, the super duper duper star wide receiver Miami has struggled to get. But I just am going to, again, lean on my knowledge of recruiting and to say, that's not necessarily true in terms of defensive back. But I mean, yeah, there is, like, would you like to get all of them? Yeah. But I still think that, Mario gets enough of them, and especially on the defensive side of the ball. But then like, no, because even when Cristobal was at Oregon, they had the T-Mac kid, the Tetairoa McMillan, who was the highest rated receiver or player who ever signed with Arizona, and he went to Arizona because Cristobal left from Oregon, where he was committed. You know what I mean? Like, now that I'm like, my brain's starting going, like, I don't really agree with that. But I will say, currently with Miami, if you want to say that the top end cornerback, like the number one cornerback who was committed and ended up signing with Colorado, that being Cormani McClain, and like a number one overall receiver, right? If you're not getting those guys, but you're getting like guys 3 through 10 instead, you know what I mean? I will agree with you on that. So to a degree, maybe I will agree, but just like in general, like he cannot get like they're like, I think that's maybe a bridge too far.
Always irritates me when I can't think of a player. So I've been searching the Oregon stat sheet for that defensive back as well. Are you talking about? I'm going to have to look at his name to nail the pronunciation. You're talking about Diomorde Lenore? Talking about
I was
him?
not talking about Lenore, even though he was a well-rated recruit. I'm gonna give me a second.
Javon Holland?
Javon Holland was one, yeah, but that's not who I was talking about. Where aren't interceptions? Interceptions. There we go. Hold on. Oh, maybe it was before his time then. Maybe it was before his time. Yeah, maybe. Oh my goodness. Yeah, sorry, I went a little bit too far back in the record books. Ifo Ekpre Alamu, who was a senior in 2014 and tore up his knee. Because sorry. So I conflated my timeline there. So I'll revoke that from the conversation. Sorry.
I excuse myself all the time now because it's like, how many tens of thousands of players are in the database at this point.
Yeah.
So sometimes years and names get conflated, as you just said. Mr. HD, Cam, what do you think about the Houston offensive lineman, Cameron Johnson, hitting the portal?
Cameron, another great name. You know what I mean? Like, hey, horse and carriage, let's get it. But yeah, man, haven't really looked too much into him, but let's do that now. Cameron Johnson. Ooh, and I gotta put football, don't I? I sure do. Houston. Let's see. Error 404, so he's not on the roster anymore. So they have already removed, his page. Let's see, 6'4", 291 on his 247. He's a grad transfer. He had played offensive line. He started at left tackle for a state runner-up in high school. I mean, I'm with it. Like, if he fits, like, I'm not going to turn down, like, good, able-bodied offensive linemen. I mean, at a certain point, you are going to have to ride with who you got, but I don't think that this is the point. He was a first-team all-conference left guard last year. Oh, sign me up then. Let's go. Allowed only 1 sack in 586 pass snaps, according to Pro Football Focus. And I was reading that on the Houston Chronicle website before it's recycled
the same
and
one.
put the paywall up. But
yeah,
even with those two quick things that we all learned together, yeah, that'll work. A first team offensive lineman from a decent conference, obviously not Power 5 conference, but 1 sack or hurry and 586 pass blocking snaps. Yeah, that'll work. And again, you're talking about coming from Houston, so the offensive coordinator, from his time there just recently. So, yeah, you're talking about, call him. Hey, make it like Eric Obadu's Tyrone and call him. Like, yeah, absolutely. Call him, evaluate if he wants to play in the same thing. Now, the thing about it is you're going to get to the point, even with him, where you have more bodies than you have snaps. Right? And I think that that's a good thing to have to a point on the offensive line. But if he's a grad transfer, he's going to want to come somewhere and play, right? Because he's trying to get to the league. I don't know that possibility of like a real play, like another 600 snaps. Because he was that's one play a game over 14 games. 2 plays a game over 7 if they would have converted a couple third downs. So he's a snap away, just really close to 600 offensive snaps, right? You're going to find 600 snaps or something that he can live with here in Miami on offensive line when you got Samson Okunlola early enrolled, when you have, Francis Mauigoa early enrolled, we have Jaden Rivers, the best offensive lineman on the team, still back here. You got Anez Cooper, you have, I'm even, forgetting other names, right? But I don't know that he comes in on the interior of the line. I mean, you got Matt Lee from UCF, that's your starting center. First team All-American, or first team All-Conference in the same conference as Houston, right? You got Rivers and Cooper. Mauigoa might move inside, who knows, right? And those 3 guys could be for the 2 interior spots. I'm probably even like overlooking Sagapolu and a couple other dudes, right? And there is the chance, because Miami does, or Cristobal and Mirabal cross-train offensive linemen, as in pretty much everybody practices everywhere, right? Because you never know where you're going to have to go. That's why it was like a big thing. Everybody's like, oh my God, on the first day of practice, there's a surprise starter at left tackle because Zion Nelson's not in. Jalen Rivers working at left tackle, because you cross-train everywhere, and that's a thing that's been done. But is that guy going to come in? And maybe he does. Maybe he does. Where he comes in, he snatches a spot and he gets his however many snaps to be happy? Or does he get to work with, a coach that he's known already in Shannon Dawson, gets to get coached up by a very good offensive line coach in Mirabal and Cristobal, or very good offensive line coaches, and then sacrifice some of his current year snaps for the potential to move forward towards the league next year? I can't speak to that. I don't know if that's the thing that he would want to do, but I know I do agree with the chat where they're saying, hey, the first thing we need to do is call him, because we're still in the rebuilding phase of that offensive line, bringing as many dudes as possible who can play and let it work itself out. And if he decides, to go somewhere else where the path to the field might seem a little easier or more sure, hey, obviously as a grad transfer, you're trying to get paid. Like, this is your money year, right? So, I mean, not in the NIL way. I mean, as in towards your professional career. But yeah, call him, bring him down. If he wants to join the team and it works out, great. If not, good luck, Godspeed.
So unless I'm missing something, the key term here is that he has announced that he will enter the transfer portal, because no one can enter the transfer portal until, I believe, the date is May 1st.
Correct. Yeah. So he's like already put it out there. Hey, when the portal opens the next window, I'm in there. Holla at me. So, and I went on the first page where I said, 404 not found, was the University of Houston roster page for Mr. Johnson, and it's already been taken down. So yeah.
He has figured out a very convenient way to skip spring practice. Because he's not going to go to spring practice.
Or he was meeting with the coaches and everything, got this new offensive coordinator. The guy that I was playing for is not here. The way that we're going to go, whatever it doesn't look like I want to be a part of that. Who knows? But like other people have done that. Like Lawrence Cager did that when he was at Miami. He was like, I'm going to transfer, but like not now when I graduate. Back when you had to have the grad transfer to get free movement. So he's like, hey, I'm letting y'all know in January, February, like I will be transferring, to set himself up to, have that potential move in the future. Yeah.
Did he go to spring practice?
I do not believe so.
Okay. We, of course, had many more cases of this last year, this past bowl season, than we did the previous year, where there was a light on Emory Jones because he was the one guy that I knew of who
Mhm.
was playing for a team in Florida against UCF in the bowl game, and he had already stated and already entered the transfer portal. So he was in the transfer portal, but they needed a quarterback with reps and with experience to play in a bowl game. But this past off season or this past bowl season,
Mhm.
that there were quite a few guys that did that that still played for their existing team, even though they entered the transfer portal.
Hey man, do the job you have while you have it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm looking for a new one, but like I'm work this job right here to the best of and fullest of my abilities until I leave. Because
And,
like
and it's and
in
it's
that
also
sense,
interesting from a leverage standpoint because obviously if you're the coaching
yeah.
staff and you don't need that guy, he's not a guy of value, then you're like, yeah, we'll put you on the bench, and if 3 guys get hurt, you'll be on the field, but otherwise, even though you've kinda dissed us to a certain extent, depending on
Mhm.
the relationship, hey, if we wanna win this bowl game, and if you can bring, the goods, then we'll play you still.
Well, I mean, it's just every situation is different. It's not always contentious. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
hey, like I had to do a thing, or whatever, or like you're looking out professionally. I was, always thinking about, back into my teaching career. But I remember we had a performance, and a student came up to me and was like, "Yo, like my parents want to take me out of here to a private school, like at the end of the day." And I'm like, you showed up in your uniform. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to shuttle you off of this organization. You've always done the work. You've been here. If you desire to perform with us one last time, great. And it was just kind of it was a situation of circumstance in that way. Now I understand that it's very different with players where like they hold their own agency, where they're making the active choice, not like my mama told me I got to go, which is what that was. So it's not directly analogous, but like these things have happened, you know what I mean? And yeah, but it's been, but then, the coaching staff on the other side has to do kind of a cost benefit analysis as well, because like that those are those guys' careers. You know what I mean? And like if they have performance benchmarks, which they do, and they have evaluative benchmarks, which they do, they can't just say, okay, bye, and then punt on whatever game, or what if they're 175 yards away from a passing bonus goal for the year? What if they're, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things they got to consider too. It's like, yeah, this kid is leaving, and that is not great for the future, but for right now, so that I keep this job and that $250,000 bonus that can go towards whatever, I'm gonna find a way to get over that so that we can make that happen today, right now.
Obviously, quality players are quality players, and much like the NFL draft, it's become in recent decades more about it. And I think this was a Dallas Cowboys philosophy first and foremost: take the best athlete and the best player above need. But all things being equal, once we get through spring practice,
Yeah.
what do you think? What would be your greatest need on this team? Like, if you could only go grab one quality player, what position would you hit?
The one that the next question on the screen is about: wide receiver. We're so bereft of top end talent that, yeah, it's been a struggle. I mean, it's been a struggle at the top end of the roster for 2 years now. Well, one going on to, the year with Charleston Rambo. And look, I know everybody's like, he's, to use my own phrase, he's extra regular. You know what I mean? He's not anybody's world beater. He's not the reigning Belitnikov winner, Jordan Addison, when he transferred into USC. He's not, like that. But look what he did in that offense, man. I mean, like, even for being, I would say, above average. I mean, maybe not superstar level, but I don't think he was actually regular, right? But like the impact on the field that Charleston Rambo had was so massive for this team and this entire organization. And I get, look, everything else didn't go well, right? I know that we lost games. I know that we had injuries. I get all of that. But what he did was truly remarkable and necessary, needed. We needed every one of those catches. His record-setting amount of catches, by the way. And I think that the fact that he set the single season receiving record spoke to the failings elsewhere on the offense, because eventually it was him football. Like, we're 11, him. I'm throwing to him because we ain't got anybody else who could do anything. It's going to him, and he made those plays. Last year, again, he's a gamer, and I love him as a Hurricane. I respected him for 4 years in high school because he just simply goes out there and plays hard and makes plays. But Xavier Restrepo cannot be your number one at the University of Miami. Simply cannot. He can't. I'm sorry. He's a 3, maybe 4 at the college level. And I think he can go to the NFL level and be a solid 3 or 4 for somebody. But that's his lane. But when you try to make him the superstar, it don't work like that. And he doesn't have, with respect, he doesn't have the physicality of other slot receivers who become number ones, right? And even Hunter Renfrow wasn't a number one, but he was such a technician, you know what I mean, that like he elevated his play. But guys at that size are track star fast. You know, you're Tavon Austin, you're DeAnthony Thomas, you're, you know, those guys. I mean, just like quicker than a whisper, like you blink and they're gone, right? He ain't that. And that's okay. But when he becomes your number one in the offense, then things are outbalanced. Things are not where they need to be. And I say all of that to say that, yeah, if I can go right now, tomorrow, May, August, whenever, and get a player for this roster to fill a continuing glaring need even after this recruiting class and last recruiting class, even with what I think is going to be good development from Isaiah Horton and from the other dude, Colby Young, number one wide receiver, an ex-wide receiver, tomorrow, today, right now.
Charleston Rambo's been in the NFL for 2 years on a roster, has yet to catch a pass.
He's been on practice squad. He was the number one overall pick in the, I forget which draft, USFL maybe? I think it was the USFL draft. He was the number one overall pick. So, I mean, yeah, he's still trying to get on the active roster. But, like, yeah, but even with that, yeah, that's number one wide receiver is far and away my answer. It's not even close.
And then taking the question on the screen here from Marcus about the passing game excelling this year. What are the chances of JoJo Trader and Chance Robinson committing in, us flipping Jeremiah Smith from the Ohio State Buckeyes?
I don't think that you're getting all three off top. If you find a way to get all three, like, I mean, I don't know. I was going to make a John Ruiz NIL joke. I don't know if that's going to be, I don't know. But I don't think you're getting all three. So let's set the table. Chance Robinson at St. Thomas Aquinas, 6'2", 6'3", about 185. JoJo Trader and Jeremiah Smith, both at Chaminade Madonna, both 5 stars. Jeremiah Smith, I mean, JoJo Trader is great. He's a 5-star as well. I think that he's, very, very good player. He's highlights here and there. Jeremiah Smith is capital letters, that guy. Like, if you want to look for a guy to put in on that list of elite South Florida receivers of late, your Jerry Jeudy's, your Grandpa Ridley's, your, even the younger Ridley, your Amari Cooper's, all those dudes, like those dudes, Jeremiah Smith. Like, he's like that and then some. He's probably the best wide receiver recruit from down here in 5-6 years. I mean, he is different. He's already gone viral like a couple times in 7-on-7 season for catches that he has playing for South Florida Express. You can look those up on social media or rewind to an ESPN. I think it was a Saturday Sports Center. But yeah, I don't think I do think that there is a matter of like transactional recruiting, right? Where it's like, we did this on the field, you come in and like continue that with the passing game. But I also think that there's like just the reputational and relationship based recruiting as well. So you bring back Kevin Beard as wide receivers coach. I think that, he's from South Florida. He was a high school All-American from Plantation High School, multiple time All-State, huge recruit, came to Miami, played well, was on, the championship team in 01, things like that. Wore number 9, and then came back, was wide receivers coach, has been around a couple other places, worked with most recently at Toledo. But, they've put a few guys in the league recently. And now he's returning home to South Florida and to the University of Miami. As I said, his alma mater and a place where he's already worked. And he's a strong recruiter. Very excited to have him back. As I said, he's the cousin of a good friend of mine. So there's that other personal connection that you come here for. But I think that the relationship-based recruiting is going to be key there. Miami was on Chance Robinson, not earlier than everybody, but at the end of his sophomore year of high school. So definitely in the fight there. JoJo Trader is a guy who Miami has been after very strongly as well. So too has been Jeremiah Smith, but like Brian Hartline is a monster recruiter. Like it's few times and far between that you're going to beat him head up for a receiver. And we've seen that, Brandon Ennis and Carnell Tate in the last class. Just go, I mean, like, I know Mark knows all the receivers that they've signed there recently. And the list is exhaustive and incredibly diverse with elite talent. I don't see that happening. I really don't. And like, it comes back to that thing. The first time that we go and out recruit Heartline for a receiver will be the first time. So it could happen. It has not happened yet, but I mean, yeah. So I say all of that to say that, I think that seeing an improved passing game on the field will then appeal more to high-end receiver recruits, the likes of Trader, Robinson, and Smith. I don't think that Miami's getting all three. But in terms of recruiting properly, getting your fair share, if you're like, hey, you can get JoJo Trader and Chance Robinson of those three, even if the best guy, I believe, of those three goes somewhere else, getting a 5-star and a high 4-star in this class is the way to go. And that would be, I believe, acceptable recruiting, right? What would not be, in my estimation, would be missing on Jeremiah Smith, and then you're bringing in, again, with respect to what they do, you're bringing in another receiver class of Ray Joseph and Robbie Washington, and not having a dynamic outside receiver in that cadre. That's where things don't necessarily align in terms of building the roster. So, I mean, I think that, both kind of recruiting, the reputational and like the demonstrable, like of, hey, we just kind of did this on the field, will help. But like for me at this point, and call it defeatist or whatever, my eyes are on Trader and Robinson. And as soon as he committed to O State, like I fully wrote off, Jeremiah Smith, just because when was the last time that somebody flipped a 5-star, receiver from Heartline? When was the last time that somebody, when that person committed, when was the last time they got him up off of that? I can't think of it. If you can think of it, put it in the chat, or like, send me a message on Twitter at Underwood Sports. Let me know. Right. But I mean, Heartline he's a year ahead of cycle. He's doing what Mac Brown did when he was coaching Texas. I'm locking down that junior class, or that next year's class, in the spring of their junior year. And then I continue to recruit / defend all the way through when they early enroll. And and you look like a couple years ago, they had 4 first-round picks on the roster and told Jameson Williams, bro, you can kick rocks. You're looking somewhere else? Go right ahead. Where you want to go? Alabama, Clemson, Georgia? Go right ahead. We're good. Huh? What? That's the kind of talent. But the way that they're recruiting, including like a Jeremiah Smith, that's how you build that kind of a depth. And we need to get there. But I'm personally dubious that getting us there currently is going to include Jeremiah Smith.
There was a picture circulating on social media a few weeks ago where it was Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson in a shot with Marvin Harrison, Emeka Buka, Julian Fleming, both number 1 in their classes. And then, of course, Jackson Smith and Jigba. So that's what, 7 guys?
That's 7 guys and like 6 guaranteed first rounders. Probably all 7 going to be first rounders in the same, like that's what I'm talking about. So even if you want to say, you know, hey, come to Miami, come here and play, be like, yo, I'm going to be in that, like, I'm going to go play for a few years. And like everyone in that picture, whether it was directly from O State or, you know, somebody who went to Alabama was there, you know, was a beefed up version of what Charleston Rambo meant to Miami's offense. That was what Jameson Williams meant to that Alabama offense. Like a beefed up, faster, more dynamic, all those things. And unfortunately, we saw that in the opener of that, you know, season. But like, yeah, I'm going to go there and I'm going to be a first round pick. And, you know, when you have 7 of them, 8 of them in one picture at one time, it's hard to combat that because the proof's in the pudding.
David Crow, appreciate your contribution. Which positions? Of course, we just addressed Cam did on the high end what he was looking for, but which positions need more depth? Does safety?
Yes, I think so. Especially with, you know, it's going to this 4-2-5 with a, you know, going back to the hybrid, whatever they want to call it now, star, striker, you know, whatever position. And if you bring James Williams down to that, you know, where his physicality would be incredible. And I know Corey Couch is playing there as well because, you know, that position requires different things in different, you know, phases of the defense and whatnot. But yeah, you can always, because now you're basically going from playing 2 safeties at a time to 3, you know. So yeah, you can use more depth there. You can use more depth along the defensive line, especially the defensive interior. You can use more at linebacker. You can use more at corner. I mean, like this rebuild of the roster is not done. Like this offseason has been one major step forward, but you're going to need another year with this kind of influx of talent to really get Miami, the Cristobal Miami, near where he wants, needs, and likes it to be. So, I mean, like, absent tight end, there's not a position on the roster that cannot use more depth. Not a single one. So, yeah, safety is definitely in that cadre, David. That's a great question.
David, thank you for coming back with another contribution. I lived in Ohio all my life, and I am a Hurricanes fan.
Well, I'm sorry about that first part, but welcome for the second part, brother. Yeah, you know, I say that jokingly as a native Michigander, but yeah, hey, we're glad to have you, and I know that there's a lot of people, you know, around everywhere who are Hurricanes fans, so it's really great to meet you virtually and everything, and thank you so much for pulling up for the show.
Somebody made a comment in there about talent versus development. Can't find it right now, but you know, that's the age-old question. Of course, you know, what is it? It's got to be somewhere in the 80 to 90% range that those guys made it to the NFL draft at that high of a level based on talent, but the development had and coaching had something to do with it. They couldn't have gone just maybe anywhere and still been drafted, but
right.
Most of it was just flat out talent.
But I mean, you're also talking about first rounders too. You're not just talking about your Benjamin Victors, who was a high school All-American from down here in Coconut Creek, right? And then goes up there, has a okay career, gets drafted in like what, the 5th or 6th? Like, we're not just talking about getting to the league, right? Because they have those guys also, you know. And look, I have no love lost for that team in the state south of Michigan. Like this is not me being like, pounding my chest, being like, "Yeah, we like that. I hate them more than any other team, program, institution, as a staff, as a label, as a motherfucking crew. I cannot stand them. But what I'm not going to do is disrespect the work that they've done, because, and that's just objective facts. You look at who they've had and all these guys in the first round, right? Hey, man, I hate it, but I got to respect that.
Anthony Manzano is giving Cam U a choice of 2 quarterbacks from the 2024 class. So we've got Dylan Raiola. Who's that? Jaden Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Davila.
Marcos Davila.
Not Merklinger. Not familiar with. I've heard the name. I just heard it on another show here in the last day, but I'm not familiar with him.
Right, yeah. So if I had to pick two, operating. So I'll go through the question again for those listening later, just to be sure. So if it's 2024 and Miami and I had to choose 2 quarterbacks as takes for Miami, given 2 options at 5-star and 2 at 4-star, Dylan Raiola and Jaden Davis, the 5 stars, Marcos Davila and Jake Merklinger, the 4 stars, pick one of each, right? Or one from each group. Now, this is funny because last year, remember, we were all having the conversation about Dante Moore versus Nico Iamaleava. That was like 4 or 5 weeks in a row. I'm going back and forth. And I was actually just talking with a friend of mine. I might have been wrong about Dante Moore. Because that kid in that All-America game, he did things I did not think he could do. I might have been wrong. But, I mean, then I was picking, $8 million Nico instead. So I'm not super wrong, but I might have undersold him in general. But in terms of this year, of those 4, I'm picking Dylan Raiola just because I really think that he's special. Not putting down. I mean, if it's me, I'm picking Raiola and Davis. Give me the 2 5 stars. Let them fight it out. That's not going to happen, and that wasn't what was asked. Excuse me. But I'm going to go Raiola and Merklinger, particularly because even though Marcos Davila was committed to Houston, or he was committed to TCU, excuse me, decommitted when Garrett Riley left. He's already committed to Purdue. So he was already looking in other directions for his collegiate future than Miami. And hey, it's fine. Like, if you want to go to that other place, make it happen. But yeah, for those reasons, I'm going Dylan Raiola and Jake Merklinger for my 5-star and 4-star in this class.
Until we get some other questions, I'm going to play one of my favorite games with Cam. I'm looking at the 2020 recruiting class for Miami with 11th ranked in the nation, 21 enrollees. We're going to run down each and every player. We're going to get Cam's reevaluation, and we're going to take it from there. We're going to 2020. I went to 2021, and I just thought, once I saw Leonard Taylor's name, I thought, these guys, they haven't progressed far enough in their careers to reevaluate. There's still a lot left on the table. So if we go to 2020, and we look at a recruiting class that was ranked 11th in the country, 21 enrolled, we've got Avante Williams, the second-ranked safety in the country, as the top-rated player in the class. And basically your reevaluation as to whether that particular player is meeting the mark, outplaying their ranking, or underachieving.
In terms of Avante, it's going to be underachieving. He redshirted his first year here, and which was, it was a strong finish to the 2020 recruiting class. I know that we beat Florida for his commitment, where they were having the hashtag Tay Day celebrations and things like that, and we're very excited that he was going to become a Gator from DeLand, Florida, like 20 minutes north of Orlando. And he was like, nah, fam, like, going to the U. But yeah, underperformed. He redshirted. So, I mean, like, he had off the field issues, and like it was rumored that he was involved in some off field shenanigans his freshman year, and then he redshirted, then he played, and then he was like openly upset about not playing more in the 2021 season. And or did he play last year here? But then he just banged it. He was like, yeah, no, I'm gone. Like, we'll see it. So, I mean, in the fact that like he was here and then he left. No, he didn't play here last year. It was 2 years ago. But yeah, 27 tackles and 1 pick. I mean, he made
Career.
No, that was only 1 interception. I'm thinking of James Williams with the other ones. Yeah. Well, but it was an incredibly athletic like interception. Like he went over top of a guy, spun, had a nice return on it, thing. So he flashed the talent that we were looking for. But yeah, he got passed by Kinchins and Williams, and his own inconsistency kind of kept him from seeing the field more. And yeah, it didn't necessarily work out. So I would say underperformed relative to his ability level in Miami. But it was always just, yeah, like it never fully settled for him here.
Then we have the second-rated player in the class, 7th rated at his position, weak side defensive end, Chance Williams.
Chance, yeah, Chance is he's working his way into a decent role here, but I still want to see more from him. 14 tackles, 1.5 tackle for loss, which is a sack. 1.5 sacks, but he has all the physical talent in the world. He's he's played a lot. Maybe more than people think. He's been, in the rotation on defensive end and everything. He switches number from 33 to 13 and whatnot. So, I mean, yeah, he's, 6'4", 250 something. And he's got all of the athletic ability in the world, but, he's maybe struggled to, I think maybe he was a high floor, lower ceiling kind of a guy. And we're seeing that borne out. Because you get guys with, a high floor and a, non-existent ceiling, which is, they can be as good as they want to be, where you get like a Nigel E. Kelly who comes on into the program day one and, I think is already proving or showing that his ability level and potential is way higher than Chance. But I would say just because, well, there's that, and we had to like go and get Akeem Mesidor from West Virginia as well, when you're thinking, hey, this should be about the time that, Chance Williams is a third-year guy, should be starting last year. I would say slightly under. No, he was so high. I would say underperforming, whether it's like moderately or slightly. But yeah.
Going to the offensive side with Don Chaney Jr., who was the 10th rated running back in the class and 16th rated player in the state out of Miami.
Belen Jesuit, yeah. Everybody knows Don Chaney's my guy. But as somebody put in the chat a couple months ago, he's almost turning into the mythical creature of Robert Burns, where, Robert Burns was incredible his high school freshman year and sophomore year. And then after that, well, actually his freshman year, got injured his sophomore year. And then I think it was, yeah, but in whatever way, after that, didn't hear much from him. He got injured. And he only had, he had 1 carry as a senior, and then 1 kickoff return, and then faded away. Now, Robert Burns popped up at UConn this past year and actually did fairly okay. Had a couple 100 yards rushing and, helped them to a couple of wins. And, that's great for him, but like between this year and the last time that he was impactful on the field was like 6 years. So Don Chaney, has been battling all these injuries. You're borderline getting into that way. So, I mean, I would have to say severely underperformed. And, but again, when he's been healthy, he's flashed, but it's been so few and far between.
You are the personnel expert, of course. I'm the guy that watches 6 or 7 games a year and then just soaks up everything that you say as much as possible. But I am a bit surprised that you were as kind as you were on the 2 Williams as top 50 to 100 players. And then for a guy, regardless of being as hurt as much as he has been, who scored 14 touchdowns and gained 1,000 yards in
No,
his
that's
career.
Jalen Knighton. That's not Don Chaney.
Oh!
That's the other one. Yeah. No, I saw that
Okay,
Chiron come up. I'm
my
like, no.
bad. I screwed that up. What was I
That's the
thinking?
other guy that we're going to talk about.
I
No,
have gotten
of
those
course.
guys mixed up in the past, and I did it
Yeah.
even looking at their names. Okay, my bad. Nix that question and that
No, all good.
pushback
Yeah.
there. We move on to offensive tackle Jalen Rivers, who's the 12th rated offensive tackle in the class.
Rivers has been really good. You know, he's been he's been about Miami's best offensive lineman these last couple of years. Now, he was on that path a couple of years ago, got injured and sat out after he tore his knee up. But last year, he came back in and again was just, he's been dynamic for a team that really desperately needs dynamic talent along the offensive lines. I think that he's either met or exceeded his expectations. I think he's, they moved him inside to guard early, and that would really seem to help him blossom. Even on a bad offensive line, you can still have positive play from one person, which is what happened a couple of years ago. And obviously now Cristobal Mirabal, they do cross train people at all the different positions. So he's been at left tackle a little bit in spring practice, and obviously in the off season been tackling guard and center even, because they cross train everywhere. But yeah, Jalen Rivers, high school teammate of Chance Williams. We made that, comparison of, the offensive tackle going up against the defensive end every day in practice, iron sharpens iron, and I know I'm taking it back, but I worked there and I saw these guys do this, before, at, and after practice. But, Tracy Howard and Malcolm Lewis, when they were at Miramar together, they never took reps against anybody else because at least in their senior year, they only took reps against each other because everybody else, no one else was going Power 5 off of that team in that current year. Nobody else was at that level. And they're the best friends that anybody ever had. You never saw Malcolm without Tracy. You know what I mean? And they just continued to help each other hone their craft. And so was the case with Chance Williams and Jalen Rivers. But yeah, Jalen Rivers, for the work he's done, I would say exceeded expectations. And I think that that's a really great thing.
Michael Redding was the 31st rated wide receiver in the class. He's caught 15 passes in his career.
Yeah. Just like most of the receivers, underachieved, I think. He's gotten the opportunity to be the big-bodied, Z receiver and things like that. But I mean, I'm not. And again, please don't mistake me saying underachieved for has done nothing is trash, because I don't mean it that way. But in terms of his physical build, he comes in, he's 195 pounds at wide receiver, pretty jacked. He's 6'2", 6'3", or 6'2", so he has good size to him on the outside and things like that. You would think that he would have the ability to do a little bit more in the passing game, but I would say underachieved to this point.
Tyler Van Dyke, 6'4", 212, 7th rated passer in the nation and the top rated player in Connecticut.
Overachieved. 100%. Yeah. This is a guy who led his team to a state championship as a senior. As a junior, he was undefeated pitcher of the year for their regional championship baseball team as well. And just look at the numbers, man. And the numbers would be even more and better if he had not gone through such injuries last year. But, it did take a measure of time for him to get on the field. It took injuries to De'Aaron King and then Jake Garcia, both. But yeah, when he got on the field in 2021, you saw what he did. And even last year in 22, things weren't great always, obviously, especially at the beginning of the year. But, after the bye week, those first 2 games, he did almost 850, 900 yards over those 2 games, I want to say. He's been, when healthy, the kind of passing quarterback that Miami, I think, is needed with really elite talent. He was in the conversation for a first-round pick heading into last season. Obviously, performance and injury inhibited that from happening, but yeah, absolutely. And even with that kind of a high ranking, exceeded expectations.
We can wrap it up with this one. He's barely seen the field. Safety Jalen Harrell. He was number 233 in his class.
Yeah, Jalen Harrell from Champagnat, Catholic school. Big physical kid. 6'2", 200. Maybe a step slow and wasn't. I mean, and he bounced around too. He bounced a cornerback for a little bit. He was at safety. He was here. He was there. But yeah, he wasn't able to really carve out a role for himself, and he's already transferred away. Was it this year or was it last year even? Oh no, it's this current year that he's transferred out. But yeah, the designs we had for him in the defense just never came to fruition. He wasn't able to embody those things and moved on. So yeah, I would say definitely underachieved. Yeah. And did you skip Jalen Knighton, or did you ask me that one? Because I know you put the Chiron up because you asked me about Don Chaney, or is he further down the list?
The 21 enrollees read as. Oh, I did skip Jalen Knighton.
Okay, yeah, because you put the Chiron up. So
man,
no, I just didn't want it to go further down the list.
I absolutely did. Yeah, so Jalen Knighton was. Wow, they were ranked as the 10th and 11th running backs. Knighton at 10, Chaney at 11, and they were close enough to be number 16 and 18 in Florida.
Yeah, so this is again when Miami got the number one back in Dade and the number one back in Broward, being Jalen Knighton, one of two guys in high school football history to run for 5,000 yards in a high school career in Broward County, the other being the late, great Tyrone Moss from Blanche Ely High School, another former Hurricane. And then Don Chaney, who was the best running back in Dade County, over Henry Parrish in the same class, right? And we let Henry Parrish go to Ole Miss because scholarship restrictions, we weren't going to take three. And we evaluated them as such. And look, Chaney's been hurt and everything. And, Parrish is good. And Parrish, transferred back here and he's in line to start here. But I don't fault that process at the time. Miami I think was very clear about their process on who they wanted, got them, made it happen. But Knighton, I mean, if you look at the numbers, I would say met expectations to maybe just a slight tick under, just because, he was so dynamic in high school. And, his speed, is just uncommon in the good way. He can get missing real quick and did. And in the passing game with Rhett Lashley, when he was offensive coordinator, schemed him wide open a few times. There was the one at Louisville where there's nobody within 50 yards of him. There's the one against on the road at North Carolina, where Knighton was open and, he called a swing route, which is like a third, fourth read check down. And, Tyler hit him in stride and there's a defender there, hit him with a, little R1, shake. And then he's riding up the sideline gone, and you're finding ways to do that. But it wasn't as consistent. I think that when we had some injuries, tried to turn him into an every down back. I think they ran him 35 times one game, and that's not his body type at all at 5'10", 185 pounds. He's not a between the tackles, every down James Conner kind of a play. AJ Dillon, when he was at Boston College, with those sequoia trees as thighs, and everything. But I think that he is the struggle here for me. So I will say the performance met expectation. I will say that the other things fell short because you had your annual Jalen Knighton suspension, clockwork, set it and forget it. At the beginning of the year, it's going to be a few games, violation of team rules, stay off the weed. And he's gonna be missing. I think he got injured one time as well, but like every year, like you're taking one of the most dynamic players on the roster off of the roster. You know what I mean? And that's where it's, to me, trending slightly under, just because like if you were in the lineup more, you could have done that or had more opportunities to do what you did or more. You know what I mean? Because like even you had long touchdown runs too from him. That inside zone at Pittsburgh a couple of years ago, boom, popped it, ball game. We already talked about him in the passing game, and it just, yeah, I think it met expectations, but the behavioral component and the fact that kept him from doing even more is the real disappointing factor for me. So, yeah, I mean, as a Swiss Army knife on offense, I think that he did well, but even with him meeting expectations, it could have had more.
Nefarious. Yeah, you missed a whole lot. So what you need to do is just hang tight right there, and we are going to wrap it up right now. You watch what you missed, and it's all there for everyone to track for the rest of the week. So make it on back next Wednesday, and we will be here each and every week at some point. Typically, that's about 99% of the time. So you can clock it, subscribe, and hit that bell for the notifications. Follow Cam, of course, over on State of the U. March Madness.
Yeah, so definitely March Madness time. The number one ranked basketball team in the ACC, the number one seed. We open up ACC tournament play tomorrow at noon against Wake Forest. So we had a double bye. So a bye yesterday, bye today, and then Wake Forest tomorrow. And then, we'll see, obviously, based upon that. Mike Schiffman's doing a great job covering the basketball team and whatnot. Baseball's doing okay. So we just have those kind of things going on. And Justin Tatavio wrote a couple of things. I still got to finish some stuff, but hey, so come on over and fan with us. stateoftheu.com, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the State of the U. My personal Twitter account is at Underwood Sports, where I tweet of all manner variety of things. And if you, like me, are into reality TV cooking competitions, Top Chef tomorrow night. It's World All-Stars this season. So not necessarily new people to the scene like last year was, but like just the cream of the crop, like former competitors and like elite Michelin starred chefs from around the world. Hey, I love my Top Chef. I'm always bringing back the Top Chef power rankings as I see them, and everything. So if you're into those kind of things and my fake athletics, because I'm playing a MLB franchise right now. So if you're into those kind of things, then yeah, just come on over and fan with us. Hit the add button, the follow button on Twitter, and I engage with people as well. I was talking about sports. I mean, well, duh, my handle is sports, but talking about a couple of different things with a couple of different people today. So, I always appreciate people who, follow and interact and engage and things like that. So, feel free to do so. And if you are in, the South Florida area and you see me around somewhere, have not had, actually, no, I did. No, not the last couple of weeks, but come say hi. Like I'm a little bit of a more rotund person than I want to be, but like I'm not a grizzly bear. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to scream or anything. So, I've met so many different people who, read our stuff or watch this show, and I'm very humbled and grateful for all of you guys, and I really do appreciate it. So, there's that. The last thing that I'll say, and this is going to be breaking news from Mark as well, but this next week is actually spring break for the University of Miami. So tomorrow's practice is their final practice before the kids go on spring break. So I'm going to take spring break off of the show for next week. So please rewatch this. Then get your questions all ready. Hey, you can maybe hit us up on social media, and then I will see you guys in a fortnight's time, which is a technical term of 2 weeks in case you guys do not remember from your Shakespeare, but not next week, but the week after that. And we'll be back rolling.
Cam, we appreciate you. Without you, we don't have a show. And so thank you so much for making this happen. Enjoy the time off, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Sounds good. You guys have a good one.
Our next show at the Voice of College Football, let's see, we're coming up on a Thursday, so we're right back here with a wholesome one, actually. That's our next show. So we'll see you tomorrow night.